speaker Anna Santos, she has received the Persephone Meal Fellowship from the Pulitzer Center in Crisis Reporting. She also has Pulitzer Center grants to work on stories on HIV in the Philippines, as well as Denmark's au pair cultural exchange program. Her HIV stories are now part of an ebook to end AIDS, and she has a biweekly sex and gender column in Rappler. She's based in Manila, Philippines, and today she's going to be talking about how to start your freelance writing career. So Anna, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Give me 1 second to make you a presenter here. And welcome everyone, we're happy to have you. All right, Anna, you're on.
Okay. Hi, Shannon. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Can you see my screen, Shannon?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that you see the full view of the screen, yeah?
You're good.
Okay. So, hi, everyone. I apologize for you guys not being able to see me. Well, actually, it's better since I'm just in my jammies. It's 10 p.m. where I'm at. So, I'm glad that for that reason you can't see me. I wasn't able to get our webcam up for the session. But nonetheless, I promise that this is going to be as exciting and as practical as can be, even if it seems like numbers aren't a thing for journalists and creative people. So thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to talk about going freelance and making money. A little bit about myself, just to add on to what Shannon said. I used to be a banker. Okay, so I went to journalism school for university, and I didn't become a journalist until like I think I was 33 or 32. So I didn't become a journalist until way after university, and it was really because I was afraid that my mother was right when she said that you'd never make money as a journalist or as a writer. I went into all other things like advertising, and my last job was in banking. I was in banking for 9 years, and my last position was in marketing as assistant vice president. But as it turns out, a lot of the things that I learned in banking and in advertising really helped me establish myself as a successful freelancer. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to share with you today. This is going to be a deck of just what I hope will be very practical tips to get you guys going. Right after this, I hope that whatever stage you are in your career, if you are already in freelance work or if you're thinking about it, this is going to help you decide, and most importantly, help you make a sustainable career out of being a freelance writer. Okay, so here we go. First is I was usually asked after I left banking, so what do you do? And I would say, well, I'm a freelance writer. And people would say, oh, so you need a job. No, I have a job. I'm a freelance writer. Yeah, you need a job. Don't you just have to kind of wait for jobs to come if you're a freelance writer? And that seemed kind of depressing, to wait for jobs to come. You know, a doctor doesn't make money unless he has patients, right? A lawyer also doesn't make any money unless he has clients. But nobody ever says to the doctor, so do you just wait for patients to fall sick and come to your clinic? Or same thing for the lawyer. And I said, why do they say that for us writers or for us journalists? And I said, I thought I would change the mindset about that. You know, it almost seemed like you're jumping from paycheck to paycheck, which I refuse to do or refuse to think of as my career. So I changed my mindset, and that's what I think the first step should be. Don't just think of yourself as a freelance writer, think of yourself as a creative entrepreneur. Okay, so what is a creative entrepreneur? A creative entrepreneur basically are those people who are just, yeah, not made for the 9 to 5 mold. You know, it's like you want to go pro with your dreams. You have this dream of being an artist, you have this dream of writing a book, you have this dream of being a photographer and traveling the world, whatever it is. But you got to figure out the financials of doing that. How do you make money off of that dream? How do you make that dream and live it and live off it? Okay? And it's all basically about being creative with both your craft and your finances. Okay? So get your money mojo on and be a creative entrepreneur. Creative entrepreneurs are those who are they don't appear to be financially savvy. Okay, not because they're airheads, but because they want to protect their integrity. Okay, you've heard people say, I don't know how to charge for my art, and besides, you know, this is something that's very personal and I'm very passionate about this. I don't feel right charging money for this. Or they don't want to subject their work to um, the process of editing or any kind of stuff like that because they want to retain control. But they do take all sorts of unintelligible risks, and they don't really want to know the hard and fast rules of business because a lot of creative stuff is just very instinctive. You know, there's nothing creativity by itself, by its very reason for being. It's just it's it's there's no box to it. Okay, but creative entrepreneurs always improvise. Okay, that's the formal definition of it. But how do you fit that mold from going from being a freelancer to being a creative entrepreneur? Okay, so first is these are now 5 tips which I've set out. And again, I'm going back to my promise of how I hope to make this very practical and really applicable. So after you listen to this, I hope you'll be able to apply it to your own position or stage in your life. Okay, how do you start off as a creative entrepreneur? I put these tips together based on when I looked at my freelance writing career and now creative entrepreneurship going 7 years. I looked at the mistakes I made. And from these mistakes, I turned them into tips and into opportunities. Now, my first mistake was, oh, I'm going to be a writer. I just have my computer, I have an internet connection, and maybe I need to invest in a printer. But other than that, I'm good to go. I can be a writer. I can start a business as a writer. I can be a creative entrepreneur. Okay, that was mistake number 1. Because as a creative entrepreneur, any kind of entrepreneur, you're going to need startup capital. Okay, I thought I could just jump from my job into being a writer. And you can't do that. You have to have startup capital, just like any other business. But how much startup capital do you really need? Okay, so this is just some kind of, again, I'm improvising, I'm a creative entrepreneur, but this is what worked for me. Okay, so I had to list down what my monthly expenses were. And this is, again, this will vary based on your life because, like, I'm a single parent. So my monthly expenses, apart from basics, rent, food, utilities, and operating costs like internet connection and office supplies and office equipment like a laptop, I had to think about stuff for me and my kid, right? So for me, I had a happiness budget, okay? A happiness budget for me is my shoes. I need to buy nice shoes every once in a while because it makes me happy. And so you have to figure out your basic startups plus add a little bit of happiness budget or a revenue or a cost line for that. The reason being, for the first couple of months, it's going to be rough. Okay, checks don't come on time. Sometimes you don't know who to call for a check because they've left the company. People are going to give you the runaround for the check that you already earned because you already put in the work. It'll make you feel really crappy about your job. Okay, it'll make you question not only why you're doing this, it'll also make you sometimes question your talent. Don't let that happen. Because when I look back at it, it was the large part of the questioning was because how come I can't live off this career or this talent of mine if it's supposed to be such a great talent or supposed to be a talent that, you know, I do better than others, then why am I not being recognized for it financially? So spare yourself that drama, okay? Put aside startup capital. Think about what your basics are. Your startup capital should cover your basics, plus what you need to start the business and keep it running and have set aside a little bit of something for yourself each month so you treat yourself for working hard, okay? And then multiply that by 6 months, at least 6 months. If you can add, you know, if you have a buffer for like 8, that's great, or 10 even, that's great, but 6 at the very minimum, okay, to keep you afloat and to keep the money flowing. And that brings me to my next concept. Okay, first was startup capital. The second is you have to manage cash flow. When I teach this class, like live or IRL, I always ask people, what's the more important word, cash or flow? And some people will say cash, some people will say flow. Okay? The most important word is really flow. Because like I said, as an entrepreneur, and any entrepreneur is like this, you're gonna have receivables. Okay, you're gonna have people who are not gonna pay you on time, or you're going to get paid for your projects in across various or varying weeks or days. Okay, at the same time, you can't tell the utilities guy that you can't pay until this magazine pays you back or pays you for the work that you already did. In my case, I was always saying, I can't tell my kids' school that, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten my check in the mail yet. Can you hold off on tuition? Okay, I can't do that. So it's always about managing cash flow. Okay? Um, and basically, your cash flow would be all the money that comes in and then managing how it goes out, but still have something to keep you afloat. Okay, that's going to be your challenge. Um, Creative entrepreneurship is unpredictable in terms of when the money is coming. Sometimes you'll feel like you have a lot of it. Sometimes you'll feel like you don't have enough. So that's why it's really important to manage your monthly cash flow. And third, so you've set up your capital, okay? You've figured out how much you need in terms of you've acknowledged rather that cash flow is really important. Third, you have to set financial goals. Okay, it's great to think that okay, I'll make enough money to cover the rent. Okay, that's one thing, but you have to be really definitive about setting your financial goals. Okay, and follow like the set the goal, make the plan, get to work, and stick to it. That whole thingamajig. You're gonna have to put a little bit of structure to this, but I promise you, it'll be fun. Okay, once the money starts coming in, it'll be really fun to watch it come in and grow. Okay. So how much do you want to make every month? Ask yourself that when you think about your financial goal. And again, this is going to vary from person to person depending on maybe how old you are, what kind of expenses you incur each month, and maybe even what part of the country you live in, because living expenses may vary. But just some ideas, and this is how I did it. So my monthly startup budget already covered the basics of rent, of keeping us alive, feeding us, and also keeping the business running. So you can use that as your base figure. And then once you have that budget set aside, multiply it by a percentage. Multiply it by maybe 20%, multiply it by 30%. You can play around with it. Excel is your friend. Okay, play around with the formula and then see if it's still a realistic budget for a monthly income. How do you know if it's realistic? Check within your state, your country, your vicinity for how much your industry, if you're a freelance writer or a writer, if you're a photographer, what's the base range? Okay, vet it against that. And then, or you can set, and that'll equal your target monthly salary. Okay, so let me just recap. You need to set a financial goal every month. You can't say, oh, I'll leave it to whatever luck, see how much I earn this month. No, set a financial goal. It's like thinking about giving yourself a salary. Okay? And how do you determine your salary each month? You can use your startup budget as the baseline and then multiply that by a certain percentage, that'll be your multiplier, to determine what your target monthly salary is. And then vet whatever amount you get against the standards in your industry and your standards in your city or your state, and just how much you want to earn also, what's acceptable for you to live in accordance with the standard of living that you would like for yourself. Okay. Now, this may seem like a lot of numbers, and oh, come on, you just said that we're not numbers people. And I found this comic, and I thought it was really cute to put here. If you can't sleep, ask an accountant about their day at work. Once you start accounting for your money, and you see you're not in the red, but money is coming in, and it's a healthy cash flow, and you can really live off your talent. You feel very fulfilled, both on the creative output wise and then the financial output wise. I tell you, it'll be really, really fun even, and really just fulfilling. So keep your eye on the numbers. Yes, that's why I had to put put a comic there. We're going to get even a little bit more hardcore about the numbers. You set a monthly target already for your salary, right? Okay. Now you have to monitor if you're meeting that salary goal or that monthly target goal every month. Now, how? My simplest formula is just to compute the percentage earned. So let's say today it is May 13th. Let's say my monthly target for a salary is $1,000 each month. And I'm only saying that because it's easy to compute. Okay, $1,000 each month. Now it's May 13th. So that's half the month. So by this time, I should have made at least 50% already of my monthly income. Then I can see how far along am I? Am I doing okay on this monthly target? Am I going to meet it? Okay. And then you need to compare it to the number of working days left. Why? Because, at least for me in my country, if there's lots of holidays, that's less people working, that's going to mean the longer it's going to take for an article that I wrote to be approved. And when the longer it takes for it to be approved, the longer it is before I can send an invoice. So you can't count that as income for that month or maybe even next month. Okay, so always make sure to account for how many working days are left. This is especially important for like December when because of the holidays, the working days are just so little. It's probably the shortest working month of the year. Okay, so you're going to have to work double time to make up for that, to make sure that you earn your monthly target for that month. Okay, then you should also have a pipeline. Remember what I said about cash flow. So apart from what you make this month, you should also have another, like put this all in Excel. Okay, apart from what you make this month, you should also think about what's coming in for the next 2 months. My pipeline basically just has a list of all of the projects that I have completed, but I haven't been paid for. Okay, and ideally, the amount that you have in that pipeline should cover at least 2 months of your monthly target. Okay, it should be good for 2 months. So that, again, you're managing cash flow. And then you have all of this on an Excel file. You break it up month by month, and then you do it again year after year. When you look at your Excel file, you start thinking about trends. Okay, I just put it as one bullet and put it under seasonality. But you have to look, again, you know, if you're a journalist, this is what you're told a lot. What's the story behind these numbers? You should do the same for your revenues. You know, when you start looking at how much you're making, what is this telling you? And what are some of the things you should look for? One for me is seasonality. I am super big on cash flow because I have a kid. Okay, anything like her getting sick or me getting sick can just throw a monkey wrench into our budget. So I'm super big and protective of cash flow. That's why I keep an eye out on seasonality. So I've seen in my own revenue charts, December for me is a very slow month because it's short. And there's about maybe 15 working days all in all for December for me. And when I don't work a lot in December, that means I don't have a lot of collection for January, nothing to collect. And January for us in the Philippines, that's when you have to start paying business permits. I had to pay the real estate tax for my apartment, so on and so forth. So that would mean for me squirreling a lot of what I make during November and October to tide me through December and January. That's one. Another thing is, where am I making most of my money? Okay, you have to diversify your income. When you think about any major company out there, they never have just one product. You think about Procter & Gamble, they don't just have soap. Okay, they've got shampoo, they've got all sorts of things. Even Disney doesn't just make money off of its movies. It's got its theme park, it's got its merchandise, etc. You should do the same. So when I track my income, I also track where I call it a revenue stream, which revenue stream it's coming from. And then I see, oh, I make money from writing. I make money from speaking at certain engagements. I make money from teaching workshops. I also make money from fixing. So then I know which jobs pay the most. So when you, as a creative entrepreneur, get all of a sudden flooded with offers, how do you know which one to turn down and which one to accept? I've learned that this is what I make the most money from. This is what I need at this time, especially considering seasonality. And then that helps me decide and prioritize projects and which projects to take, which projects to decline, which projects to pass on to other creative entrepreneurs like me. Okay? And well, that basically sums it up. That's the process. Your mindset should be that of a creative entrepreneur. Okay, you have to have startup capital. You have to diligently manage cash flow. You have to set a financial goal or set a target. And lastly, always keep your eye on the numbers. Okay, keep track of your financial goal to make sure that you meet your target. And then just keep on doing that every month, every year. All right, I think that ends my presentation. I think we're ready for questions, Shannon.
Okay, great. So our first question, it comes from Megan, and she's asking, do you recommend an online accounting course to help with the numbers? She said she's never done anything more than balancing her personal checkbook. So what do you think about that?
An online accounting course. That's a really good question. I think there's some, I would suggest like Accounting 101 or Accounting for Dummies, anything that you can Google related to that. But please go specific to managing cash flow or computing cash flow or managing sales targets. I would suggest that. And go for short little clips. It's basic math, but if you feel a little intimidated by it, I think those things will help you become more confident about it.
And coming from a business background, because you originally worked in banking, I believe.
Mhm.
How do you feel about your career transition? I mean, did you feel, I know that obviously that helped you in terms of financial planning, but do you have any regrets with it? Do you, especially for a lot of people who, they these days get laid off from their full-time jobs and end up going freelancing, and it's very scary for a lot of people. I mean, you actually personally chose to do this. What would you
Mhm.
say to someone who's just getting into it and is feeling a little unsure of themselves?
There's so many times that I would question myself, like, what am I doing? I mean, I could have just, I had such an easy life already, I would just go to work, have really nice shoes, and have coffee brought to me, and I had my own parking spot. I mean, it was a very comfortable life, but I wasn't fulfilled. It just felt kind of empty. And I mean, so you guys listening out there, I'm not dissing anybody in a corporate financial job or whatever. It's just different strokes for different folks, right? And for a very long time, I had to have that job because I was a single parent. And I needed that kind of stability. I needed that kind of consistency for both of us. And so when I decided to walk away, it was also a very calculated move. By that time, I had gotten a housing loan, which I would never have been able to get, I think, with an erratic, let's call it a freelancer income. I had also saved up enough for a car for us. So I got the things that were important. So when I jumped into it, I said, okay, this is sink or swim. And if I sink, well, then I got to find another job, right? But there were many times when I would question myself. But each and every time, I'm telling you, something would come up. Okay, and the most life-changing was really the Persephone Meal Fellow that was awarded to me, the fellowship that was awarded to me by the Pulitzer Center. And it's really been no turning back since then. What helped me stay grounded, tell me when to throw in the towel was really monitoring the numbers.
Yeah. And our next question is, what are some of the essential skills to learn to make us stand out from other freelancers?
Okay, I think number one is really building your brand. Okay, your byline is your brand. So I have made, in my own home country, I have made my byline My byline stands for anything really sex and gender related. Okay, and as I was telling Shannon earlier, I just got an award from a school run by Benedictine nuns for my sex column and my quote
Amazing.
unquote sex work. It's really funny, and I have to tell them. I mean, I will share what I shared with Shannon when I got the call for the award. I said, "Oh, so this must be my work for the Poster Center on migrant mothers." They're like, "Oh no, ma'am, it's your work for your column." Oh, okay, that's great. So it really resonated with a certain group of people. That school is a university, so of journalism students. I found my voice. So whatever it is you think about defining your brand or finding your writer's voice, that's how you stand out. Okay, that's how you stand out from other freelancers because it's not just about writing about a topic that interests you. You'll find that over time, when you keep on writing about it, because it's really an iterative process as well, you'll build an expertise on the subject matter that not all other writers are have the eye for or have the training for. So in the same way that artists or photographers, I'm sorry, have a visual signature, writers have a voice, and then their byline starts to stand for something, and you'll find that editors will start looking for you because they know that okay, this person can write about a certain subject matter with a degree of expertise, with a degree of authority and credibility, and can also write about it in this kind of voice. So they'll know that it'll fit their publication, and they'll go out and look for you to do it.
So, so on that note, you would recommend, becoming an expert in a specific area? Because I know that you work on a lot of like gender and sexual issues and things of that nature. I mean, because a lot of freelancers, I feel like they have to spread themselves pretty thin and knowing everything and covering everything in order to, reach that goal income of the month. But are you saying that it's better to become an expert in one area and that you think you'll be more successful in that regard?
I still write, Shannon, for a lot of different other things. When I get an assignment and hey, I gotta pay the bills, I'll do it.
Hmm.
But or like fixing is the best example. I fix for the journalists coming to the Philippines, and as you can imagine, there are lots of journalists coming to the Philippines. So that really has nothing. Well, no, there's not nothing, but it doesn't have as much to do with my own byline, and I'll still take the job.
Hmm.
But see, I make sure that the other stuff that I do doesn't dilute the byline that I'm known for.
Yeah.
Because you will fall into that trap. You'll feel like, and it's great. That's what I love about being a writer. You're paid to research and expand your knowledge on certain things. Hold off on that. What are you really interested in? I'm interested in sex. Okay, I love it, and I'm also interested in labor migration specific to how it affects women. And then I was ecstatic to find that again there was a sex angle in there somewhere, a reproductive health angle. So I like that. I always try to look for the linkages as well.
Okay. I think that's all we have for today. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Anna?
Good. If there are any other questions, I guess I can shoot off to you, or
Yeah,
how's that work?
if anyone has any questions for Anna, her contact info is on our speakers page, or you can always email me and I can send them off to her as well. Okay, but thank you so much, Anna, for doing this today. We really appreciate it, and thank you all for attending. We will have this video up hopefully in the next couple of days, so if you need to go over it and review anything, it'll be there. So thank you so much, Anna. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Shannon, and thanks everyone.
Bye.